Today we're going to talk about how to scale your Terraform module usage. We typically see that there's three phases to this. First off, defining your standards through a module registry. This gives your end users a way to select code and know that they're doing so in a compliant way that meets your organizational standards. A couple of tools that offer module registries: Scalr, Terraform Cloud, GitLab, among others. The next phase is enforcing modules through Open Policy Agent. So just because your users have a module registry available to them doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to follow that, or that there aren't ways to get around using those standards. So what Open Policy Agent does is allows you to create rules to enforce that if a resource is created, it must be done so from a specific source and a specific module. A couple example tools out there for this: again, Scalr, HashiCorp, as well as Stira, who is the organization that actually has created and manages Open Policy Agent. And lastly, there's reporting. So this gives you an overview of what is being used and if there are any gaps within the enforcement. This also helps you understand what Terraform module versions are being used, what the source of those modules are, and what you should really focus your time on. If you know a module is being used by 99% of your workspaces, you probably want to make sure that that module is taken care of and always up to date, versus one that might be only used by one or two workspaces. In terms of tooling, Scalr is really the only product that gives this level of reporting. So those are the three phases. Generally, the module registry comes first, and then Open Policy Agent reporting comes second in no particular order. But now let's show you how you can actually do this within Scalr itself. So what I've done in Scalr is first created an S3 module in the private module registry. I've also created a policy to enforce where S3 modules should actually be pulled from. And then lastly, we'll go through and look at reporting. So first off, what we're looking at here is that S3 module that I created. So I created this in GitHub, then automatically pull it into Scalr. Users now see, what the standard module is for S3, how it should be used, and now can copy and paste it into their code and then kick off their Terraform workflow. So let's go look at a previous run in one of my workspaces here that I see that has failed. And in that run, we're going to notice that it has failed because our Open Policy Agent check has a limit modules policy. And if we look at the error here, we notice that the module was actually pulled from AWS when the policy is saying that the source should actually be from my Scalr demo account, specifically that module registry. If we go out and take a look at that policy, what we see here is that the policy essentially saying that if you are to deploy an S3 bucket, this is what the source should be. So it's the Scalr module registry. In this case, my Terraform code had it pulling from the public Terraform registry. So what we can go ahead and do then is just comment out these few lines here. And then we'll uncomment those lines that actually have it pulling from the Scalr module registry. Commit those changes, flip back into Scalr, and now what we'll see is those changes will go through successfully without a policy violation in this case. So we finished the plan. We'll now go through the cost estimation. And now we are in that policy check phase. So everything has passed except for one advisory, which is unrelated. And we'll go ahead and prove the Terraform run, which is now going to kick off the apply and create that S3 bucket for us. Okay, the bucket has now been completed. So we've now gone through the first few phases, which were defining the module in the module registry, enforcing policies to ensure that it's actually being pulled from the module registry whenever an S3 bucket is created. And now we're going to go to the reporting phase. So we have all these controls in place. We want to see how things are actually being used. So we're going to go up to the Scalr account scope, click on reports here, and modules in use. So in this case, what we actually see is there are two different S3 bucket modules being used. One is from the Scalr demo module registry, which is what I just provisioned. And then we actually have another that was pulled from the public registry. So in this case, we can click on there. We now see that this workspace was deployed in our CS-M environment using the S3 module version of 3.8.2. And what we can see is that it was deployed on April 11th before we actually did those changes, or before we actually applied those policies. So now what I can do is go back into this deployment here, rerun that, understand what changes need to be made, update my repository to ensure that now all deployments are compliant. So really that kind of brings it all together, where we've done our module registry, we've done our enforcement through policy, and then we were able to look at how things were actually being deployed through reporting to make sure that all workspaces are standard and compliant.